enterprise models are going to change. This is the point where things will be completely different, how you architect systems and how people work.
What do you see as an effective model?
In my book, I'm talking about a model I call the Agent Factory. The Agent Factory is
Meet Martin Hofmann, the former CIO of Volkswagen, a key leader at Salesforce and Volta Trucks, author of the Agentic Enterprise launching on 14th February, board member and advisor.
Success in an agentic transformation. 20% is implementing technology. 80% is upfront work, designing the governance layers, the guardrails, the trust levels, designing what the agent is allowed to do. So you build a layer around your legacies, you wrap it. You put a metadata layer on top. There you put the intelligence. You do not touch the legacy world, let it there. It's great for keeping transactions and keeping the data. Use it as data pots.
If there are three things that you would say to any CIOs and CEOs today, what they should be doing if they want to harness the power of AI and AI agents, where would you suggest they start?
My favorite one is the
Hey, Martin, it's so great to have you on AI Heroes and Headaches podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Vivian, thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited to be on the show.
You know, you have had such an amazing career journey from being the Volkswagen CIO to the SVP of our Salesforce strategic customers role, and then also a CTO of e-vehicle startup, and now you advise companies and sit on boards. You've had this incredible journey from running IT for one of the largest automakers to now helping organizations. So super excited to have you. Would love to kind of learn about that journey from you. What was that aha moment where it made you realize like, hey, CIOs need to fundamentally evolve?
I mean, there are several aha moments, right? I mean, let me give you the full arc because I think every step really shaped my perspective. So when I was at VW, I mean, 640,000 employees, 12 brands, 120 factories, a corporation around the world. What you learn as a CIO, actually you're taught humility because the scale, the legacy technology and changes are massive. When you change something, it's always massive, right? And by the end of the day, it's not the technology because that's always there. It's the operating model, it's governance and the people. And that makes change so incredibly difficult. With Salesforce, I had the luxury to be on the other side, on the vendor side, right? So I was working with a lot of strategic customers and I saw the same thing happening there. They had the best technology, right? They bought the best platforms, but they didn't change the operational model, didn't take the people along. So they didn't get the value out of it that they could have, right? And also, Vivian, I have to say that if you move from a big corp, like a traditional corporation to a tech company like Salesforce, you learn how things change quickly, right? And things have to change quickly and consistently generate results. And the last step, when you go to a startup where I was, bootstrapped, no money, you're always cash constrained, you have to build technology and every single day counts. You don't have time to waste in any transformation. So you're just moving along. So these three things really shape my perspective.
That's super interesting. You've worked in that broad spectrum from startup, large enterprises, and through that, this kind of the three things you called out, the operating model, governance, and also at the end of the day, it's the people that are basically the pinpoints of any
Right.
transformation. You're about to publish this book, The Agentic Enterprise. Can you give us a little preview of this book? What inspired you to write the book based on the experiences you've had?
Right. The question, why did I write this book? I asked myself this question many times, right? So, by the way, it's done, published February 14th on Amazon worldwide, called The Agentic Enterprise, Building Organizations That Think, Act, and Learn Autonomously. So basically, I mean, all those literally hundreds of conversations I have had with my peers at that time in Salesforce, with startups, tech companies, especially the great people of Salesforce, like you, right? I mean, all those conversations I've had came to the single question, how do you make this transformation happen? The technology is great. It's there, right? And so there's a lot of books out there, strategy books, McKinsey reports on the strategy side. And you find a lot of tech books, how to do it, how to implement. crew AI and all of that, right? So, but there's no book putting everything together and giving you a blueprint and addressing the CEO, what he has to do, she has to do, CIO, and the CHRO. That didn't exist. So basically, I couldn't find the book I wanted, so I decided to write it myself. Right? This is basically my trigger point.
That's amazing. So it's interesting. You basically say, hey, there's a lot of, strategy books, the state of, AI agents. There's a proliferation of those. And then there's obviously like IT books, but your book sounds like it brings both together. And I think it ties very well into the operating model you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, the C-suite need to actually make something that's very practical and can operationalize having read the book.
I think there was one moment where I stood up and said, now I'm going to write it. Dreamforce 24. I listened carefully to Mark Benioff's speech. Mark introduced the Agentic Enterprise and Agentic AI, right? So that point, I stood up and said, this is it. Enterprise models are going to change. This is it. This is the point, right, where things will be completely different, how you architect systems and how people work. So this was the point. I said, now I'm going to write it.
That's amazing. Hey, so tell us a little bit more about that, right? Like, Mark had launched Agentforce. Then from a CIO, a modern CIO's perspective, there's a lot of legacy systems already. How do you kind of jump and make that agentic leap, as you would call it?
Well, I mean, the common mistake that you do as a CIO, I wouldn't say mistake, that I did as well, right? I mean, you have such a burden and legacy, true legacy with data in it, and your complete company history is in big systems, sometimes even on mainframe. So when you go into a new technology endeavor, the first thing you do is, oh my God, how do I integrate? So it's this integration nightmare that is in front of you. And how do I integrate it into very old systems? And so basically that approach is absolutely wrong. And I learned that the hard way. So basically what you do today, and the technology is out there, there's no excuse not to do it, is I call it Strangler fig. It's like this plant that grows around an old tree and grows until it can stand on its own. And then the tree is not needed anymore. And this fig tree is on its own. So you build a layer around your legacies. You wrap it. You put a metadata layer on top. I think you guys call it data cloud, right? You put it on top. And there you put the intelligence. You do not touch the legacy world. Let it there. It's great for keeping transactions and keeping the data. Use it at data pots, right? Databases and transaction systems. But all the intelligence you build outside. And this gives you the speed.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so basically, you don't necessarily have to change the whole system, right? It's building on top of what the legacy systems and build the integration. And I like your Strangler fig kind of framework on it. Maybe talk a little bit about people are rushing to get to this AI transformation. When people try to move fast, there's there's ongoing kind of data projects. Where have you seen the speed actually led to mistakes? What's a failure you might have seen or you've experienced yourself firsthand?
I mean, the whole topic the coin is two sides, right? I mean, moving too fast and moving too slow. I mean, if you moving too fast, we have seen that many times, which is you buy an incredible platform, an AI platform, you jump on it, put a team on there, immediately start working on it. Experimentation is great, don't get me wrong. So you have your first pilot, and then you come what I call into pilot theater. It's a pilot, it looks great, you present it, CEO is ecstatic, oh my God, press release, we are on AI, right? And then nothing happens. Why? Because you were so fast, you jumped on it, you forgot to do the most important things. First of all, design all the guidelines, right? What is the agent allowed to do? What is not? How are people going affected by it? How they augment it? How do we split the roles? All those questions to make it workable over a longer time, ignore it. You immediately want to go and play with technology and get an MVP running, right? So this is the danger when you go too fast, right? So the other things when you're too slow. And I'll give an example, an automotive company out of Europe. They wanted to have an agent doing volume planning. Volume planning is a highly complex process over many vehicles, markets, variations of the vehicle options. Or you plan volumes that you use for operational planning. So the first question was, what is volume? And they found out, oh my God, we have 5, 4, 6, 7 definitions in volume. Volume is something different in logistics than in finance, right? Marketing has a different definition of volume. So defining that, the ontology, the data definition, it took them 6 months, right, just to do that. So, I mean, pick one and go for it. This is, I mean, the learning out of it is you can forever end up in those data definitions. The second thing is we need to clean the data. Only clean data can work for an agent. I think this is not true. If you look how companies run today, people operate in ambiguity. They don't have 100% of data today, and still they do their job and it works, right? So 80% of correct data is enough. You don't need 100%. You don't need a data lake project 6 months before you start with AI. You define your metadata layer and you start, and on the go, you change and clean the data. So this is, I think, the biggest mistake and excuse, sorry to say that, our data is not correct. We have shitty data, sorry. And this is causing all those long delays.
That really resonates. I've definitely met customers where they say, hey, I'm going to embark on the data foundation project for the next 2 years before I implement any agent. What I'm hearing you say is, hey, even with data, when it comes to data, could be an 80-20 rule. What are the 80% of the data you absolutely have to get right to be able to harness the power of that data and the
Yes.
agents that need to operate on top of it, and then on an ongoing basis, having that humility you called out earlier to continue to improve, learn, and make progress. And talk a little bit about, I know you've been in this space for so long. Historically, IT is considered like a project, but based on what you're describing, it sounds like this is more of a system. Can you go into share more details about what is the right approach to think about this transformation?
Yeah, I mean, you tend as a CIO, you love technology and you love to put that into the next IT project, which it's not, right? I mean, this is a new business operating system. You're creating a business operating system. You're changing the way, if you do it really right, if you introduce AI to your company, you go deep into the DNA, how people collaborate, how they work together, hybrid teams, and you get into completely new performance levels if you do it right. So how do you handle that? This is an organizational change program. I call it's a business operating system that you're introducing, right? So, and if you do that, you have to have your narrative right for the people. How do you get people onto that journey? And I think there are three things that are super important. The first thing is it's augmenting, whatever you do, it's augmenting your workforce, your people. The moment you talk about replacement, people will block. They will prove that this is not going to work. They will find hair in the soup, right? And rightfully so, because they're frightened. So that's one thing to really make sure, and don't fire people after you've implemented agentic AI, because people will lose trust forever because you've just proven them right and you are not truthful. So basically what you do is the second point, what you do is let the people be part of designing the agent. Let them design, co-design the hybrid teams. Don't outsource that to system integrators. Let your people do it. Get them involved in the project. And they're designing what are the guardrails, decision boundaries. When does an agent have to come back to me and ask for approval? When not? When am I fine if the agent does this and that? So this is not just good design, this is change management, right? And I think if people are allowed to design the system and put the trust in, then trust is baked into it. And trust is the core thing of it. And the third thing, and I really have to push on that, it sounds so obvious, but it's being truthful as a leader, as a CEO. tell people, look, this is coming. We're changing the way we're operating as a company. We navigate through that together. We will not, no one will have a disadvantage. It's going to be an elevating event, right? Because you can focus on the things you always wanted to do when you joined the company, work strategically, work as an expert, and let's see in 18 months where we are and adjust the journey if necessary. And to finish that, I don't like, by the way, the term human in the loop. I think it's experts in the loop, because this shows you that the role is elevated of the human in this whole setting. And if you are truthful to that, I think people will understand and build the trust that you need.
Wow, that's really helpful from a framing perspective. You've touched on three really important things. One is, hey, augment people and build that trust very early on. Then the second is involving the people and don't outsource. And the third part is like, hey, how do you set expectations with the leaders and really the SMEs in your organizations? They are subject matter experts. It's not just any human, it's a subject matter person with
That's
the
correct.
expertise. And tell me, upskilling and reskilling is something we always talk about at Salesforce. Share a bit more about involving the people. Not everyone right away have the agent data AI skill set. How do you involve people along that journey? Especially when we see ourselves that we have like FDEs that are working with our customers on a daily basis to help them through that journey. But what do you see as like an effective model?
In my book, I'm talking about a model I call the Agent Factory. The Agent Factory is a cross-functional team that you set up in your company with IT people, IT experts, the business people in the business functions that are affected by it, and also HR is part of that. And in that factory, think of it like a factory with different floors. The first floor is design, agent design. So basically, the business experts with IT people, they describe, what am I doing today and what are the elements I would love to hand over to someone else. For example, as a cost engineer, I don't like to play around with Excel sheets and waste 90% of my time on Excel. If that could be taken care of, automatically pull the data in and show me certain patterns, that would be great. And I can focus on the engineering side of cost, how to improve cost structures and do the strategic part of that. So this design, agent design, is the first step. The second is building agents. And with technology today, even some, I wouldn't say tech savvy, but business people can use tools and co-develop an agent, right? And click on it and get it live and be part of that. It's creating pride because you're building it, right? The third level is agent operations. So they have a panel where they get reports on a daily basis or in real time how the agent in their team is executing. If there are any problems, red flags, yellow flags, success rates, and they see the outcomes, right? So agents are reporting back success, how the percentage of completed jobs or cost saved or revenue increased. So they're reporting back into the team, and the team sees that. And the fourth one is the governance layer. So employees should heavily focus on what are the guardrails. What would I allow my team colleague to decide for me and what not, right? This is the guardrail that you give to an agent as well. The agent cannot do this, but can do that, right? So this involvement is generating pride, trust, and ownership. And this is why I call it the Agent Factory, like coming from automotive, right? I think in factories and products. So in that factory, they have a home cross-functional, and they do it from A to Z and build it and run it.
Yeah, I like how you describe it from like a supply chain perspective. There are various steps for how you go from, the designing, even with that operating model in mind, right? What is the tasks and the jobs that you hand over, then to the build and operations through the various observability, and essentially also setting up guardrails to make sure the agent is performing that full loop. And tell me a little bit more, say a bit more about, how do we scale this throughout the entire enterprise from your perspective? Because you talk about, there's the agent factory maybe within a certain division, but through the entire enterprise, how do you see that evolve?
Right. I think there are probably many answers to that. Mine that I'm seeing, that I'm working with several customers on doing that, is you follow the value and you follow the pain. For example, right now there's a big wave of attrition, natural attrition. I mean, people who are born in the 60s are now retiring, right? So a lot of knowledge is going out. A lot of capacity is leaving the companies, not being rehired. So how do you cover that with agentic technology? So those functions leaving can be replaced with agents, right? So the team actually is happy that when one colleague is leaving and a new one is not coming in, that they get covered with agents helping them. So attrition is a topic. The second thing is missing expertise. We can't find experts, right? So, for example, in marketing planning, sales planning, if you can't find the right people to take that over, and you have a need for 5, 6, 7 positions, before you hire and can't find them anyway, think about using agents there. So you augment the team and following the pain point, right? So those are areas where you start, right? I'm working with an automotive supplier. Their biggest pain point is RFPs coming in from automotive OEMs, 2,000 pages. It takes them 4 to 6 weeks to respond to a RFP, and they have a CRM. They're running on Salesforce. It still takes them 6 weeks because this entire process is so manual, dissecting this 2,000 pages inside the company and letting different teams work on it, and then come back with a pricing to the customer, the automotive company. So this is a great area where pain is so hard. They're cutting down from 6 weeks to 1 week by having 3 agents in their team managing the RFP process and the RFP documentation, the project management side of it, providing the information, and they bundle documents back together and send it to the OEM as their offer, right? So it's completely automated. And everyone is super happy in the team because account team on the tier 1 supplier side, they focus on customer engagement conversation, not on working on Excel sheets and papers in an RFP. So you find those areas and you find the next one, and you find the next one, and you find the next one.
I like your framing of like find the pain and find the value. And essentially, in this example of working through the RFP, the account team can really focus on building the relationships and with the customers and understanding the problem set, and the RFP can be facilitated by the agents, because we know there's a very lengthy process that involves lots of different documentation and sources of information. This has been very helpful and such a good conversation. We're coming close to an end here, and I would love for if there are 3 things that you would say, to any CIOs and CEOs today, what they should be doing right now if they want to harness the power of AI and AI agents. Where would you suggest they start?
My favorite one is what I call the 80-20 philosophy. Or turn it around, the 20-80 split. Success in an agentic transformation, 20% is implementing technology, 20%. 80% is upfront work, the design work, designing the governance layers, the guardrails, the trust levels, designing what the agent is allowed to do, and designing the job split, human and agents, expert and agent in teams, designing the hybrid teams. So the design work is 80%, right? It takes the longest time. And this is what is skipped many times because you jump immediately on the platform and you build the first agent. Oh my God, why isn't that delivering the value we expected? 90%, Vivian, as we know, as we heard from MIT, of those activities fail, right? The outcome was not clear. It was nothing more than pilot theater, right? To keep management happy and to experiment. Experimentation is great, but it doesn't lead to success. So having the success measures up front and focus on design, then the implementation is easy. I mean, you and I could sit together tonight and create 2 or 3 agents on the platform. That's not a difficult part, right? But to define and design it. And my recommendation is take those 80% serious, right? And if you want to accelerate, that's where accelerate. Do it right and do it fast, right? That's where you lose time and potentially lose trust.
That's a really important framing. It's not, hey, just go and build. But really, if you want to provide a lot of value, the upfront, deep thinking design work needs to come first, and probably also organizational alignment, right? And that's where
Yes.
the CHRO, you had talked about the CHRO framing is helpful through that perspective. Okay, and tell us, you mentioned your book. Where can people find your book? I'm really curious. I can't wait to get a handle on the book. Tell
So I
people
have
where,
to,
yeah,
I
they
have
can
to
find.
warn you, right? I mean, it's 640 pages. It's not a thin book, right? I can't even print a hard copy. It's only paperback because hard copies stop at 500 pages. Anyway, but it's on Amazon as Kindle, a Kindle version, and a paperback on Amazon. The Agentic Enterprise, Building Organization, Think, Act, and Learn Autonomously. You can pre-order the Kindle version, and it's coming out. Both are coming out paperback February 14th, Valentine's Day. So if you're looking for a Valentine's present, right, that's a great one.
That sounds great. Okay, so we can pre-order the book already on Amazon, and it comes out on February 14th. Thank you so much for this
Thank you, Vivian. It was really
super
great.
interesting
Thank you so
conversation,
much.
Martin.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.